I didn't become a Christian until I was 30. And from that point on out, I really became a trophy of God's sense of humor, because I had been working in media. At the time I became a Christian, I was working in a film studio, and this is an environment where selfish ambition is really rewarded. You're a go-getter, you promote yourself, it's fantastic. And a few years after that, I was employed by a ministry that wanted to use my media skills and would task me for how successful I was in hitting certain objectives. But half of my evaluation was going to be based on 5 character qualities, which included humility, and I'm like, uh-oh, and joy, and serving, and excellence, and creativity. And I thought, this stinks, because either we're going to make our deadlines, or we're going to be on budget, and we're going to ask everybody forgiveness later, or we're just going to be all godly and nice and never get anything done. I was like, you can't possibly be expecting me to do all 3. Well, they did. And my boss at the time was a man who was used by God's sense of humor and God's care for wanting to use a blunt instrument in my life for me to see the things I was blind to. And my boss was very plain-spoken and direct. He was encouraging, but at the same time, he wasn't going to beat around the bush about areas where I was fudging in my character and trying to make myself look better than I was. And I remember at the time praying and asking God, please remove this man from my life. And God's like, no, he's part of my plan. And I was such a disruption to this organization. I have no idea why they kept me. And at the time I thought, I don't want to hear his input. I don't want to have this mirror held up to me about my character and my lack of willingness to really serve others or to be gracious and not be impatient. 1 Corinthians, the famous love passage, starts with, love is patient. I stumble at that every time. Customer service, you better serve me well. It's just, when you get irritated and impatient with people, it's the first sign that you're not loving. And my job was the crucible of that character existence for me. As a single woman, I didn't have the intimacy of marriage, but God made sure I would get my character revealed in my job. And my boss was that man, and yet he still encouraged me. He talked to me about my character, he talked to me about my job, he encouraged me in my skill sets, and he encouraged me in the value of being honest and transparent and owning your mistakes. And to this day, even though I haven't worked there for 6-7 years, this man and his wife are still some of my best friends, and we get together. And if you'd asked me when I started that job, would I have wanted that kind of input? I'd be like, no way. Would you think you're still going to be friends with him? No way. But God was faithful to show me that those who really care about your character and are willing to both encourage and rebuke where necessary, but done in love and done with patience. My boss was so patient. Can really help people to grow and change. And so that's why I say I'm a trophy of God's sense of humor, because if you had seen me then, you'd never say like, oh yeah, she's a prime candidate for women's ministry circles. I so needed so much help. But people who will suffer with you and show that to you and show you grace are so important. And finally, I'll say this. I can remember being at an important trade show and being rebuked for just getting some feedback about how I'd handled things poorly. And I felt that welling up that you have when you realize you've fallen short of somebody's goals, and you start to fight the tears. And I went into the ladies' room and I began to cry. And when I cry, it's not a pretty experience. I kind of resemble an olive. My face is big and red and it just looked really bad. And I remember talking to God, and he said, you know what? At least you're not Peter, whose failings were forever encapsulated in Scripture for all of us to look at and learn from and grow. And I thought, yeah, that's right. And if I can be as transparent as Peter was, who through the course of his life would end up writing these wonderful epistles about humility and loving others, then that's the goal I want. And I want to love and respect others who show me when I'm trying to hide, when I'm putting on my little fig leaves and trying to cover up weaknesses at work and other things. And they're like, no, you're not measuring up to the task, but we still love you. But we're also going to tell you, you're not measuring up to the task. And to be able to receive that was excellent leadership. A lot of other people might look at this or listen to this story and go, wow, harsh boss. I don't think if I'd had a softer boss who gave me lots of encouragement, sugar-coated, I probably would have just licked off the sugar coating and ignored the correction. And I needed somebody who was plain-spoken, but it's still patient and loving. And so to that end, I'm grateful, and I thank the Lord for the work that He's done in my character through the job, and I hope to be able to offer the same thing to those who are around me. Maybe not quite as bluntly, but as encouragingly.